So I absolutely love it when kids play sports. It's one of my favorite things to see my own kids get excited about playing sports, to see other kids excited about playing sports. But one of the tricky things about sports as a whole is that once you start to shift from just like playing sports and having fun, then it shifts into the more competitive scenario, and that's really great, right? Challenging kids' minds, challenging their mentality and their grit and tenacity for the sport. But the tricky thing about playing sports is that all of that load, all of that extra stress that comes with like getting good at something, sometimes the enjoyment can be taken out of that, and that adds a lot of stress in terms of overload to their nervous system, because they're handling the sport in less of a fun way as it begins. And there can still be fun when it comes to that competitive nature of the sport, but it also adds a lot of stress and emotional stress and physical stress, and that can have a big impact on kids. As a parent, I want my kids to be able to thrive as much as possible when it comes to playing the sports that they love to play. You want to give them everything possible, right? To help them just do as much as they can possibly do and excel as much as they possibly can in that sport. So you give them all the additional trainings, you give them all of the coaching that they need, you just be the supportive parent that you need to, and encourage them as much as you can. All those things are really good, but all those things also add to the total load and stress that a kid experiences in life. You might even give them the right nutrition and the right stretches and all that stuff, right? And even maybe the right mental coaching. But all those things, even as good as they are, and they're super helpful, often make you overlook one of the most important things, which is your kiddo's nervous system. So the nervous system is really key to every single aspect of performance. It controls speed, it controls strength, it controls recovery, it controls coordination, it controls balance, and all those things. But when the nervous system gets stressed and it experiences something called subluxation, and subluxation, we've talked about this before, is the chiropractic fancy word for stress that gets stuck on the nervous system leading to dysfunction, then that disrupts the communication from the brain to their body, and then their body doesn't do all those things that we just mentioned appropriately. When their body doesn't do those things as appropriately as possible, then this leads to slower reaction times, poor coordination, muscle fatigue, and even injuries. So subluxation has three components. The first one is misalignment and asymmetry. Basically, if there's physical stress to your kiddo's nervous system from the sport that they play or from some other thing, then that causes the vertebrae and the neurospinal system to be shifted out of proper alignment, and that leads to not only discomfort, but also miscommunication from the brain to the rest of the body. And so we want to make sure that we correct that as quickly as possible. The second thing is tension and restricted motion, and that kind of comes along with that first one. When you have tension and restricted motion, then a kiddo that's playing baseball or football and throwing the ball can't do that as good as they need to, or they play tennis, or they might play soccer, then their hips won't move the way that they need to so that they can run as fast as they need to, right? All of those things are greatly affected when a kiddo is experiencing tension and stress in their neuromuscular system. And we don't want that, right? We want our kids to be able to have as little tension as possible, unrestricted motion, so that they can successfully perform well in their sport. The third thing is neurologic interference, and that really slows the brain to body connection. So if you have those stress points in your nervous system, your kiddo's nervous system is focusing on tension and discomfort, then that's what their brain is processing constantly. They're constantly processing, okay, I need to avoid stepping this way, I need to avoid shifting that way, I need to avoid all these different things. And so that's when injury occurs, is because their brain can't focus on what actually matters, which is just playing the sport and doing the thing. They're worried about getting hurt. And here's the thing, we see this with kids all the time at Renegade Chiropractic. It's not, you maybe have heard the term like your kid gets the yips or something, like they're really good one day and then all of a sudden like they just start terrible at the sport. It's like, did you just stop practicing? What happened? That's not what it is at all. It's that their nervous system gets so overloaded, and the information that's traveling from the brain to the rest of their body to coordinate and do the things that it's supposed to do just can't happen the way that it's supposed to. And then, they go back the next week to play whatever game they're in, of a sudden it's back, right? And so it's this back and forth thing as their nervous system gets more or less overloaded that leads to kids in a more dysfunctional state when it comes to their sport. And so getting them adjusted helps elevate their body's capability even during the stressful times. Essentially, it's not just about the effort that they put into it, but about the system's total ability to do what it's supposed to do. So at Renegade Chiropractic, what we do is we use very specific scans called insight scans that help us measure how stressed is their nervous system, something called heart rate variability, where the stress is stuck in their nervous system, something called a neurothermal scan, and then how that's affecting them on a more physical perspective, as well as where the stress is stuck, a neuromuscular scan. So the EMG scan shows us muscle communication and asymmetry. So how much effort and energy is being utilized for the muscles to activate, and then how well are they balancing out how well are they doing that from side to side on the neurospinal system. Heart rate variability measures how well the body is able to recover from the stresses that it experiences, be it physical stress, emotional stress, or chemical stress. One scan that tells us so much is this neuromuscular scan right here. This is a symmetry scan, and what it shows us is patterns where stress is stuck. And you can see these red bars up here at the top, and then you can see them over here on the opposite side. This is what we call a torsion stress, because what will happen is kids, depending on the sport that they play, will utilize one side of their body more than the other, or they'll get hit on one side of the body and then the other side will compensate for that. And so we get this torsion stress that goes kind of in a pattern this way, and that leads to overcompensations that can affect the rest of their entire body as well too. And so we want to get them adjusted so that we can help their body balance out these stressors. These patterns of tension and stress will lead to injuries and burnout and plateaus in performance because their body is constantly holding on to these issues and compensating for them. Hey look, a baby. So what our care does is it helps us reset the nervous system to help restore appropriate function in these young athletes and in your kiddos so that they can continue to play the sport that they love to do. They can do it uninhibited, and it doesn't take like a bunch of big, huge, massive, explosive adjustments. I mean, we can do that if it makes sense to, but it's really tailored, gentle, and specific adjustments to help your kiddo shift from a stress state to a more thriving state. The other thing is it's not just a temporary fix, because when you hone in on not just the pain, but the nervous system itself, it allows for the body to do more of what it's supposed to do and do it comfortably. So if you're a parent, you're a coach, and you're wondering why your kiddo's not performing the way that maybe they know that they can, and they're feeling frustrated, and you're feeling frustrated for them because you want them to enjoy the sport that they've loved for so long, let us know. Reach out. We can get their scans scheduled, and we can help them do the things that they want to do. The nervous system really is the difference between good athletes and great athletes. So if their nervous system is dialed in, then they'll do really well. And if it's not dialed in, they'll still do good, but maybe not as well as they could. So let's get your child's nervous system checked and get it clear so that they can function the way they want to. If you message us athlete, then we will reach out to you and figure out a good time to get your kiddo scheduled in our office and just help them thrive and do the things that they love to do and be the athlete that you know they can be and that they know that they can be. If you don't want to message us, then just visit our website and we'll get you scheduled as soon as possible.